Nancy doesn't get a whole lot of episodes that focus on her, and this one to me is the best of the lot. I mean, if nothing else, we get this in it.
Fire's everywhere, Shug! We're never gonna get out!
Oh, God. Baby, I always hoped we'd die together. Peggy, you go die over there.
Hey folks, welcome to Squirrel Tactics. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the Patreon, the merch store, the sister channel, all that good stuff. Anyway, let's just do this. Gone with the Windstorm. The title is taken from the 1936 Pulitzer Prize winning novel by Margaret Mitchell, Gone with the Wind.
God is my witness. I'll never be hungry again.
Though that title originated from a poem by Ernest Dowson, and Windstorm because Nancy, Dale, and Peggy end up getting trapped in a firestorm, but there is a windstorm towards the beginning, and yeah, that's close enough. It deals with Nancy coming to terms with and subsequently fighting back against losing her place at Channel 84.
Channel 84. Late-breaking weather, every hour on the hour.
And also a B-plot about a kid that has a penchant for hiding and scaring people. It should be noted that this was the first episode of the show to premiere as part of Fox's Animation Domination Sunday programming block, whose original run lasted from 2005 to 2014.
It's brand new episodes of King of the Hill, Malcolm, The Simpsons, The Return of Family Guy, and the premiere of American Dad. Animation Domination starts now on Fox.
We start off, how else, with the guys in the alley discussing the upcoming pork festival that actually sounds like something I'd like to attend. And it's not surprising considering Arlen is looked at as a pig town due to being the home of several pork companies, such as Larson Pork Products and Uncle Chuck's Breakfast Meats.
Where you guys from?
Arlen, Texas.
Pig town. You a pig farmer?
I think you're confused, sir. We don't raise pigs in Arlen, Texas. We process them.
Oh, yeah, you folks make them tiny breakfast weenies. But you're gonna have to leave now.
I do like how Dale watches the weather report on his portable black and white television. I haven't seen one of those in years, and yes, kids, these used to be a thing. Peggy and Nancy are signing autographs, or in Peggy's case, faux autographs, for the upcoming festival because the weather is supposed to be sunny and clear.
You know what they say about the weather in Texas. If you don't like it, just wait 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes 10.
Except, no, it's not sunny and clear, because of course it's not sunny and clear. A storm rolls in that could have easily been predicted, but Nancy isn't a meteorologist. She's just a weather girl who reads the weather off of a teleprompter. And those are her words, not mine. So yeah, she's not going to know that this storm is blowing its way in, therefore postponing the festival. Meanwhile, Bobby is minding his own business at school when he gets scared by Jimmy Bearden, one of two characters in this episode voiced by Brendan Fraser. We'll get to the other one here in a minute, and this is not smart, especially in Texas, because if you startle the wrong person randomly, well, yeah, that kind of thing happens. That's how you get shot. Bobby will continue dealing with this as a B-plot. Nancy is at the news studio talking with Miguel about them getting free stuff by mentioning places on the air when the station manager, Tom Chick, comes in all in a huff because he's been getting angry phone calls about their less than accurate weather reporting. He does simmer down a bit when it's pointed out that he doesn't supply proper equipment to predict the weather. In fact, the Doppler system that they advertise having is just the air conditioner unit on the roof with Doppler written on the side. So if anyone's at fault here, it's him. Nancy points out that other stations, including Telemundo, have actual Doppler, and it's time for them to get it as well.
Well, then get me a Doppler or whatever can predict the weather better so I don't look like a jackass again, Shug.
For those of you wondering, Doppler radar is basically mapping precipitation using microwave radiation. It's called Doppler because it uses the Doppler effect, named after the guy who first described it, Christian Doppler. The whole car driving by getting louder as it approaches and quieter as it goes away thing, yeah, that's an example of the Doppler effect. It has to do with the change of wave frequencies relative to the observer. Basically, it shoots out microwaves that bounce off clouds. It's just part of what they need and eventually get to try and predict the weather. Bobby gets scared again. Jimmy was in his locker this time, and we see Bobby becoming more paranoid, which is totally understandable. If some little bastard kept jumping out startling me, I'd get sick of it pretty quick. Actually, it'd go more like this.
Nah, probably.
Tom finally did his job and got weather equipment, though it's rather evident pretty quick that Nancy's a bit out of her element with this newfangled technology.
Forecast for Arlen, please.
That's a parallel port, not a microphone there, Shug. Kinda reminds me of Hank trying to use a computer. It doesn't matter because Nancy's not going to be doing the weather anymore. It's being turned over to an actual meteorologist, Irv Bennett, the other character in this episode voiced by Brendan Fraser. And no, this was not handled well at all. Seems the decent thing to do would to have a discussion with Nancy before she just randomly finds out right before the broadcast. That's pretty crappy on Tom's part, and Nancy ends up being relegated to the weather line, which is just a fax machine. Granted, yes, she could have just been fired, though they may have still been worried about that lawsuit.
There, I signed your wife's new contract. And I said I was sorry. Now, you gonna drop that age discrimination suit against the station?
Not so fast, Hollywood. What's in it for me?
What do you want?
Oh, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. File cabinet.
Get him a file cabinet.
I should have asked for a weather chopper.
It's also pretty hard to fire her considering she's got a contract with the station. But she also could have been made co-anchor. Yeah, that does eventually happen, but she has to pretty much go through hell for it. Oh, and notice the map here during the weather. Yeah, Arlen is in this area. Now, this is something new for Nancy to deal with. She's already dealt with getting older in an occupation that values youth, but this is her not getting older, but rather her job getting older. Weather girls by that time had largely fallen out of fashion, well, outside of Latin America, and it's pretty easy to figure out why they maintain a stronghold down there.
Hasta sus hogares veamos las condiciones de que más me toca del pronóstico del tiempo para que tomen nota porque continúan las heladas importantes en buena parte del territorio nacional. Mientras tanto...
But here, no. People are much more interested in accurate weather than what the face is coming out of looks like. And unfortunately for Nancy, when it comes to the weather, she's like a reindeer because she don't know shit about shit. I feel bad for Nancy. It's rare, but it does happen because, yeah, she should have been studying up on weather enough to at least be able to tell the difference between the types of clouds, but that was never really expected of her. I mean, let's think about her fan mail here.
No, people love you. Look at this mail. We love the blonde woman, and Nancy real good, and I want to lay with Blondie.
Really? Oh, that's flattering.
Nancy's a looker, not a languager, so her thinking she could skate on her looks like she always had is pretty understandable. But when the winds of change blow through, like the change of opinion on weather accuracy, you can either fight it or go along with it. Either way, you're going where the wind blows you.
Can you blow me where the Pampers is?
What?
Can you blow me where the Pampers is? Can you show me where the campus is?
Yeah, sure.
And unfortunately for Nancy, where the wind is blowing is a place where she doesn't have a place anymore. She is not an integral part of the Channel 84 news team. She's manning a fax machine. That's a pretty hard pill to swallow. Also, to be fair, she didn't have the equipment to properly do the job anyway. You can't hand somebody a thermometer and a barometer and expect them to be able to predict the weather with it. Anywho, Nancy is in the Gribble hot tub feeling sad as she watches Irv do the weather, with Dale and Peggy trying to make her feel at least a little bit better. And nice continuity here. This is the same hot tub that Hank hooked up for Nancy as an anniversary gift for Dale back in Suge Night.
I've got to tell you, Nancy, I've never done this before. It's all so weird. The bonnet valves are bolted, not screwed. The regulators are back mounted. If I could just get it to work.
Dale is actually kind of in awe of Irv because he can actually track the weather, like meteorologists do.
How could we be defeated by a man named Irv?
But Peggy taps into Nancy's anger and ferocity, reminding her of what she's capable of, and Nancy agrees to go after Irv. Hank learns about Bobby's issue and tries to teach him how to fight again, but it's mostly Bobby just kind of flailing his arms. It looks more like a sad attempt at dog paddling than anything. Though granted, it is better than the last time he tried and he ended up getting kicked in the balls.
You left yourself open, Dad.
You have been kicked in the testicles.
It's still disappointing to Hank, and it should be disappointing to Bobby, but it's not. And honestly, the kid tends to scramble away quicker than Bobby could punch him anyway.
Why don't you find his schedule and try to stay away from him?
Nancy attempts to turn on the old razzle-dazzle and get some dirt on Irv from his college days, but the craziest thing he did was stay outside all night to feel what 7 degrees felt like. I felt 7 degrees. It feels cold, Irv. It feels cold. She tries to make him nervous, planting the seeds for stage fright, but that seed don't take root in Irv's kind of soil, so she just throws a Hail Mary and tells him that his nose is big. However, instead of faltering, he uses it to make jokes at his own expense, making Nancy even more unhappy, and we all learn that Miguel has no idea what rhinoplasty is. It's a fancy way to say nose job. Dale wants to help Nancy, and since he's Dale, he goes his typical route, threatening phone calls, like he's done before.
Hello?
You don't know who I am, but I know where you live, and if you teach that sex ed class, so help me out.
Dale? Is that you?
Oh, Hank, can I speak with Peggy?
Peggy, it's for you. It's Dale.
Yellow Dale.
You don't know who I am, but I know where you live.
But it doesn't exactly go as he had planned, seeing as it ain't Irv manning his desk.
Get out, Weatherman. The pain front is coming. Leave town.
Dale?
Nancy?
What are you doing, Dale?
I'm getting rid of Irv for you. Could you leave a message I called? Not me, but me.
Tom announces that there's a wildfire nearby, and it's all hands on deck, except for Nancy. He sends her home in case cameramen need to sleep on her desk. We also find out that they show Seinfeld reruns. It's not an important thing, but now we know it. Bobby comes home from school wearing lost and found pants because he literally had the piss scared out of him. I mean, kudos to Jimmy Bearden, that's not the easiest thing to do. Hank has had enough and decides it's high time that he and Cutie Pants there go have a talk with Jimmy's parents. Nancy is ready to give up, but Peggy won't let her, and good on Peggy here. She pushes Nancy to fight for her job. And no, that doesn't mean kill Irv, no matter how many times Nancy thinks that's what she means. Rather, she means that Nancy needs to cover the fire herself and show the station that she's more than just a weather girl, which Nancy agrees to, and Dale is of course on board.
Dale, get out of the hot tub! We're stealing a news van!
It's the perfect crime. How will they ever report it?
Dale is super super in this episode, which is always nice to see because that's not always the case. Hank talks with Jimmy's dad and finds out that he's just as afraid of Jimmy as Bobby is, questioning where Jimmy is and warning them to avoid the mailbox because you never know where that little bastard is. The Hills leave, but not before seeing Jimmy scare his dad through the front window. Again, one quick punch would put a stop to that, I'm pretty sure of it. Peggy, Nancy, and Dale are successful in their attempt to steal a news van and head over to the wildfire. I just want to point out the Strickland propane bobtail back there. Also, a wildfire probably isn't the best place for that truck to be anywhere near. You might want to go ahead and get that as far away as you can, as quickly as you can. But what do I know? Dale throws on a fake mustache and pretends to be Miguel Hernandez. I'm guessing that none of the firefighters have ever seen Miguel Hernandez. Dale doesn't look anything like him, starting with the fact that he doesn't have a mustache. And no matter, they head into the press area and see that it's pretty well staked out. One of the other reporters is even wearing the same outfit as Nancy. So they decide to go further and sneak into the not so safe area of the wildfire, which, yeah, do not do that. Also, fun little fact here, a lot of these trees appear to be pine trees. And something that can happen with pine trees in a fire is that the sap inside boils and eventually leaks out. And due to the process, it takes on a reddish color, so it literally looks like the tree arteries are bleeding. Anywho, they sneak, and I use that word loosely, past everyone else and head into the forbidden zone, where the air is smoky enough that it chokes Dale, and Peggy sees the beauty of wildlife coming together to help each other, using a hawk carrying a rabbit away as an example, which, yeah, that rabbit isn't quite being safe. I mean, it won't be burned alive, but it's also got other issues to worry about. If it's still alive, that is. Nancy starts her report, the fire getting closer and warmer as she talks, until it's raining ash on them and the camera piece melts into Dale's glasses. This is about the time that the station realizes that Nancy is broadcasting from within the fire, and they all celebrate when Dale is able to get the van exploding on camera. This, of course, kills the feed because it was being broadcast, by the van, and Tom is worried about getting the picture back up. Oh, and letting firefighters know that they have people that are in there, but that's not nearly as important as the shot, but he does mention it. And this scene really shows how little the station cares about Nancy's well-being, seeing as Tom is all about getting shots to run in promos and only gets upset because they lost the picture when the van blew up. They're able to get another feed going in time to see Nancy blubbering into the camera about not wanting to die, and everyone in the control room is cheering because they got the feedback.
We've got picture.
Luckily, the three do survive the fire. I know some of y'all were kind of hoping Peggy wouldn't, and they all end up being airlifted out. While that's going on, Hank and Bobby decide to give Jimmy a taste of his own medicine and keep scaring him in his own bedroom until he agrees to stop scaring Bobby. Problem is, as soon as they leave, he disappears again, and it seems that the trouble for his dad is far from over. Nancy meets with Tom, and she's expecting to get fired. I mean, she stole a news van that then exploded after she drove it into a wildfire. However, the footage of her terrified that she's about to die has become popular and other stations are asking for it, so instead of firing her, they move her to co-anchor, and the episode ends with Nancy being announced as the newest part of the news team.
Thanks, Irv. It's great to be a part of the team, Shug.
Have you been feeling itchy lately? We may have the reason why.
So, Gone With The Windstorm. I think this one is underrated in that it doesn't get talked about as much for as funny as it is. The A-plot is great. The Dale, Nancy, Peggy team-up works well. They're funny, they play off of each other, and we get to see Dale in super supportive mode, something that we don't always see. Hell, Dale is typically either really nice or really mean. There's not a whole lot of in between, but that's also part of what makes him a hilarious character. Nancy dealing with her occupation moving on as time goes by was well done. The lack of caring from the industry showcased where they weren't worried at all about Nancy's well-being but were more focused on getting the shot was also rather well played out. The B-plot was funny, though not really anything special. It hit all the marks for a good B-plot. It gave Bobby and Hank something to do, but I don't know, it just never stuck out in my mind like some other B-plots do. It's a good one, just kind of forgettable. Sadly, that's kind of the case for this entire episode. It's a really good episode, really funny, great lines. But unfortunately, it just doesn't stick out. I've talked about it on this channel so little that I've never had to rip the episode until this review. That's how little it stands out. As I mentioned, this is one of the very rare occasions that I actually felt kind of bad for Nancy. This is a situation where the problems she's facing aren't simply the consequences of her own actions, which is typically the case. But overall, just underrated episode. Great jokes, good story, and if nothing else, we got some good old-fashioned gold from Dooley.
You thought he was a dog.
Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see y'all next time.
You don't know who I am, but I know where you live, sex ed teacher, and you better cut it out if you know what's good for you. Oh, and Hank, we changed that tee-off time to 3 o'clock. See you.